Hello there, I'm Lloyd Evans. Welcome to The Bunker. In today's live stream video, I'm going to be doing a rebuttal to Governing Body Update 2021 number 5. I obviously did a live stream rebuttal to number 4, and that went reasonably well. So I figured, why not try the same thing again with number 5, which is hosted by Geoffrey Jackson. And this time, I am joined by an assistant. Welcome to Amanda, aka Like a Fox. Welcome, Amanda.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for having me, Lloyd.
It's an absolute pleasure. So Amanda is a moderator on the channel and always has interesting views. And I'm sure you're going to have no shortage of views on what we're about to look at.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's kind of a comedy cringe fest from start to finish. So I can't wait to get
unusual
stuck into it.
In that regard for JW broadcasting material, isn't it?
Oh, yes, very unusual.
And we will be taking a break. We will be taking breaks for viewer comments. And just to warn you all, I say warn you, it's not like it's a bad thing. But at the end of, after we've finished our rebuttal, we're going to have another viewer invasion. So how it works is, I am going to be, how are we going to do this? How did we do this last time? I think producer Bob puts a link in the live chat after we've finished. And if people click on that link, it gives them basically a link to join the live stream via StreamYard. But obviously, I'm not going to necessarily be able to get through everyone, potentially, depending on how many people click the link.
And anybody who does join needs to make sure that they have their camera switched on.
Indeed. They have to have their camera switched on. Thank you for reminding me, Amanda. And they also need to make sure that any comments or questions are on topic.
Absolutely.
So yes, that's how the viewer invasion works. But anyway, without further ado, let's roll the first clip.
Greetings, brothers and sisters, and welcome to this update on the global COVID-19 pandemic.
Yes, apparently we need an update on the COVID pandemic from a cult in upstate New York.
Because none of us are watching the news.
How would we know about the COVID pandemic without Geoffrey Jackson here to explain things to us? So thank you, Geoffrey.
On behalf of the governing body, I want to tell you how encouraged we are when we hear about your endurance through these difficult times. In this update, I'd like to speak to you parents who are raising children. Although all of us have had to stay vigilant to protect ourselves and others, you, dear parents, have carried a particularly heavy load. We can only imagine the deep concern you've had for your young children and teens during the pandemic.
I think one of the reasons why Geoffrey can only imagine what it's like for parents is because he isn't a parent. And, you know, I realize I say this often in my rebuttals, and I get people saying, well, you don't have to be a parent to know basic things about children. And I appreciate that. I hate this idea of kind of parents speaking down and saying, speaking as a parent. However, when it's someone who is routinely giving parental advice to parents and putting it, spinning it as wisdom from God, and they have no experience with raising children themselves, that's when it gets a bit grating, I think.
And when he's talking about the details of the challenges and the struggles that parents face, it's like you can observe what other people go through when raising a child, but you don't know anything about the experience of their struggles. What are you doing, Geoffrey Jackson, talking about this sort of thing? You know, get off the stage.
He has experience in carrying heavy burdens, I think we can safely say, but maybe not so much in the
His suit has a lot of experience in that too.
Indeed. Oh dear.
You worry about their physical safety and their education. You've also been concerned about the emotional impact of physical distancing for many months from other children, grandparents, relatives, and the congregation. And you've handled all of this while you work to provide for them and keep up your family's spiritual routine. That's a lot on your shoulders.
I'm pretty certain that this is mostly, if not all, about the spiritual routine. And, we're seconds in, and already he's mentioning, in the context of a global pandemic, yeah, but what about the spiritual routine? And this is clearly where this is going. It's not just about dealing with mental health issues, even though that's how he's spinning it. It's not just about, I don't know, taking basic kind of health precautions or getting vaccinated or those things. This is all, as far as Geoffrey Jackson's concerned, about keeping his followers subservient, compliant, and indoctrinated.
Yes. And he is also making the point of being concerned about the emotional well-being of people who are in lockdown, and or the physical distance, I think is how he put it, of or the emotional impact that physical distance has on children. And you can't help but think of the physical impact shunning would have, especially when it's years of your family and friends not having close contact with you, and not close contact, but we're talking about phone calls, Zoom calls. You can't do that with your disfellowshipped son or daughter, but you can do that in lockdown. So
yeah, apparently being isolated from other human beings is a problem in this scenario, but not when it comes to shunning.
It's a blatant double standard. Yeah.
Indeed.
Remember that the prophecy in 2 Timothy chapter 3 tells us that in the last days there would be critical times, hard to deal with. So the fact that Satan is attacking the family unit is no surprise to you parents.
Satan is attacking the family unit. I don't know how. Maybe Satan is arranging for families to be broken apart on ideological grounds. Is that what Satan's doing when he's attacking the family unit? Oh, no, sorry. That's what Geoffrey Jackson's doing with his pals.
I think we might need to check and see if Satan is behind the podium there in the background. I think he might be in the JW broadcasting studio by the sounds of it.
Yeah. Satan is attacking the family unit through us. Yeah. Thank you for that, Geoffrey.
The surprise, however, may be when the attack takes an unexpected form, or perhaps feels like many attacks coming all at once. That's what the pandemic has been for many of you. Now I'm going to say something that you already know. Jehovah God and Jesus know how you feel. Their own example leaves no doubt. For instance, there were times when Jehovah stepped in to protect his son when he was on the earth. He first carefully entrusted Jesus to the care of loving parents. And when Herod wanted to kill Jesus as a child, Jehovah told Joseph and Mary to flee to Egypt until the threat passed. You could say it was like an extended lockdown that kept them away from family and friends for some time.
But you couldn't, could you? That for me is just way too much of a stretch.
How is flee to Egypt like an extended lockdown?
Jehovah has experience as a parent with lockdowns because he entrusted Jesus to Mary and Joseph, and they had to flee to Egypt, which was sort of like a lockdown. No, it just isn't.
Moving is not like lockdown. It's not like, what was Jehovah going to do? I mean, he was the one that came up with this whole plan to send Jesus down to die for our sins, and decided to use human birthing as his mechanism for sending Jesus down. What was he going to do? Give him shitty parents?
Yeah. This for me was just a classic example of them desperately trying to squeeze the Bible to support what they want to say, It's
such a stretch. I've never moved in my life and ever said that this is like a pandemic lockdown.
Yeah, going on holiday, lockdown. No, it's just not how it works. Yeah.
Traveling, lockdown.
Jesus experienced what it's really like to grow up as a child in a wicked world. He knows the pressures and the dangers. It's no wonder that he took a special interest in children during his ministry. And today, he shares your deep concern for your children.
So Jesus has a deep concern for the children. It's questionable to what extent Geoffrey Jackson has any real concern based on the fact that he puts into place and defends and perpetuates policies that directly threaten children with greater exposure to people who also take a keen interest in children, but for very different reasons.
Yep. That man's face will forever remind me of a coward in a courtroom. Forever.
Yeah.
It's tied to that moment. Yeah.
You're referring, of course, to Geoffrey Jackson's appearance
At the ARC. Yep.
reluctant appearance because he was dragged there. In fact, I heard that the footage was actually taken in a police station.
Oh, right.
That's what I heard. So yes.
Ah.
Press on.
But you Christian parents have other good examples to look to. It's the example of our brothers and sisters who live in areas that have been hit hard by the pandemic. More recently, this has been the case in India and Brazil. We spoke to parents in those lands and asked them how this has affected their families, and in particular, their children.
For a child, it's been a whole year without being able to play with other children, so they really miss being with their friends.
A big challenge that parents have now is coming up with something fun for them to do as a family, so that their child doesn't feel upset or sad.
They feel anxious to go out, and it's very challenging for us to keep them motivated to stay inside.
So I was watching this, and we have here Milton and Punitha in India. And I was watching this thinking, they look familiar. And I guess one of the benefits of doing the job that I do for so long is that you do, connect the dots and you do remember things. And I remembered where I'd seen them before, and it's actually from a propaganda video that got released during the worst convention ever, the 2016 Remain Loyal to Jehovah convention. I don't know whether you remember, Amanda, but there was a talk in there where they dealt with child safeguarding, but basically put it all on the parents. So they said, it's the parents' duty to make sure the children get sex education, and it's even to some degree the children's duty to not dress immodestly. So it was that talk.
I remember that point.
Exactly. Who can forget? And so they appeared in a video that was shown during that talk, as we will see.
In our culture, talking about sex is taboo. So much so that our parents do not talk to us about it.
It is hard to know how much information we should give to our children.
Same couple.
Children are naturally curious. Our fear is, what if they get wrong thoughts?
Even before Satan's
It's possible to have wrong thoughts. Thoughts can be wrong.
Thought
AKA
crime.
Thought crime, yeah.
word can teach our children about sex, we can teach them. Learn from the great teacher, chapter 32, has beautiful.
And there we have an illustration showing a child raising her hand to someone who is apparently making an inappropriate advance. So again, the clear message in that illustration in the book, which is being promoted in this video, is
It's the child's responsibility.
It's the child. Children, make sure you don't get raped by adults who are bigger and stronger than you, basically.
This was the key image that they felt to put into it. Not like, the cops coming to your house to talk to you about what's happened or anything like that,
Exactly.
Beautiful questions. It helps us to understand what is in their heart and how much information they already know. Since we have already spoken to them about sex at this stage, we can talk about any serious matters in future without feeling awkward.
So this is clearly the same couple, I think we've established. And I just find it fascinating that they need to, for some reason, recycle the same people to the point where they can be recognized. There aren't enough witnesses, apparently, in India, or witness parents in India, for them to just choose totally new parents.
Yeah, they're
to
like, let's
interview.
call up the Indian couple that we always get every time we need somebody from that area to comment.
We need to call Milton and Panitha. We have them on speed dial for situations in which we need Indian parents. Yeah. Oh dear.
Our family was infected with COVID-19. It was physically and emotionally very stressful for all of us.
So we have another Indian couple here who here talking about that it was physically and emotionally stressful for them to be infected with COVID-19. Is it me, or does the guy to the left look like he might be in a hostage situation? He is just motionless and seemingly terrified.
He looks like a statue.
He looks like a statue, and his wife is doing most of the talking. We do hear him a little bit as the video goes on, a little bit, but his wife's doing most of the talking, and she looks like she's reading straight off an auto cue, which then raises the question: you know, what's behind the camera? What are they looking at? If we could see from their perspective, would we see a film crew with just a camera, or would we see a film crew with a camera and an auto cue? And what does that tell you if the responses need to be this scripted, you know?
Yeah, especially since they're not talking about necessarily any in-depth material. They're just speaking from their
They're
experience.
talking about a traumatic experience. They shouldn't need to be reminded of what happened, or
how to say it.
How to say it, exactly. It should just and in fact it's more compelling if they do speak extemporaneously about what happened to them. So
absolutely.
I don't know what's going on here.
We are not able to meet the friends at the Kingdom Hall anymore. Neither can we see our relatives. So the kids, they are getting really bored.
Right after the pandemic began, we got the news that Denise had cancer. Of course, one of our main concerns was our daughter. She really became anxious about what was going to happen to her mom.
So this was very odd, and we'll take this moment to take a few comments very shortly. But so we have here Thompson and Denise. Obviously, it's very tragic that Denise has or had cancer. What I find unnerving is, number one, that they're basically using something entirely unrelated to Jehovah's Witnesses to seemingly leverage, you know, an appeal to emotion, to say, here's this tragic situation, and, you know, here's a reason for you to keep the faith because cancer. I think it's inappropriate that the cancer is irrelevant really in the context of the Jehovah's Witness beliefs. Secondly, they don't tell us, and I've double checked, anywhere in this video what happened next. You've brought up the fact, no one's asked you to, you've brought up the fact that your wife got cancer in this pandemic, and they've edited this video so we never find out anything else. Has she recovered? Has she gone into remission? What's happened next? They just don't tell us, so that the Jehovah's Witness audience is left hanging as to whether this woman's even still alive.
Yeah. Yeah, no, they've given no regard to her well-being in this whole thing. They just kind of mention the cancer so that they can give this like concept of like a layered trial-some situation for this couple, and then they just leave us all hanging. Yeah.
Oh, very, very, very odd. I mean, Denise, obviously, as someone who lost his mother to cancer, I wouldn't wish it on anybody. No. Yeah. And I think, again, having raised this subject entirely unprompted, at least by the audience, obviously, but having volunteered this information, I think it behooves the producers to reassure the audience, well, here's what's happened next, you know.
Yeah, tie up some loose ends there. Yeah.
They just do not care. So at this point, producer Bob, perhaps we can take, actually, before we take some comments, I think there might be some super chats. Yes, there are. So huge thanks to Josh Mundy for your super chat. Thank you to Kasai Tadashi for your super chat. Rebecca Ida for your super chat. Thank you to the Shund Experience, Jordan, patron. Thank you for your super chat. And we also have Julie V as well. So thank you to all of you for sending in those super chats. And producer Bob, perhaps we have some... Yes, fleeing to Egypt was like a lockdown at the best.
Absolutely hilarious.
Oh, that got me. Yeah, let's make the most tenuous link possible between the Bible and the coronavirus pandemic.
And
Yeah.
I was doing just a little bit of Googling. I didn't go too far into it, but I was trying to see how long it would take for Mary, Joseph, and Jesus to all travel to Egypt. And it was only like between 4 and 7 days. And then they were living, presumably, in Egypt, it's thought, for about 3 years. So they moved to a place, they were probably like living there, making new connections. It's nothing like lockdown. It's just
No.
such an absurd stretch for him to try to even remotely connect. Yeah, it's
I should just point out as well that the whole Egypt narrative is completely implausible and seemingly only shoehorned in.
right.
Because the writers, bear in mind Mark was written first, and I think the Egypt narrative is in Matthew. The writers were apparently frantically trying to fulfill as many prophecies, messianic prophecies as possible. And one of the prophecies mentioned that the Messiah would come from Egypt, so they had to
Right.
orchestrate this
Right.
incredibly fanciful, implausible drama where they have to flee to Egypt.
So then, did Herod even want to kill all of those babies? Like, or was it just a made-up thing?
We'll never know, because it's not in recorded history, and archaeology doesn't affirm
the
any of these
Bible.
events.
Yeah.
Thank you to Old Eyes for an Old Soul for your super chat. My mother has been battling cancer for several years. I talk about her and not myself. Indeed, yeah. I don't know. I think what Old Eyes is saying there is that surely, why can't she be talking about this?
Yeah.
She's literally sat right there, Denise.
She is, and she's a lot of the time you just kind of see her, and she's kind of looking up, and like,
Yeah.
you can tell she probably has things to say. She's just not saying them.
It's very, very odd. Any more comments before? JWs here are being told strains of COVID are keeping Kingdom Halls closed when we know they are being maintained to be sold. It's conceivable to me that it could be like there's the Delta variant running amok in the UK right now, and that's causing them to extend lockdown generally, not just for Jehovah's Witnesses. I think that they will return to the Kingdom Halls as soon as they possibly can, and I've heard something about October bounced around. I can't confirm that, but I think they're going to go back to the Kingdom Halls. And I think if they do sell the Kingdom Halls, as I've discussed on this channel previously, it will be with huge reluctance and as an act of desperation. We'll basically know just how bad things are for the organisation financially when they resort to that, selling all the Kingdom Halls. And with that, let's proceed with more of this video.
Perhaps you can sympathize with some of the challenges parents in India and Brazil are facing. We know it's not been easy for parents and families during the pandemic. But with every trial, there are also opportunities to remain loyal to Jehovah and to grow spiritually.
It's not just a pandemic that's killed 3.8 million people. Think of it as an opportunity.
Trials are opportunities.
It's
I'd love to know-
opportunity time.
Yeah, I'd love to know the last trial Geoffrey Jackson really had that he had to make an opportunity out of, like a personal trial where he had to have this kind of positive attitude. It's just, no.
We know about Geoffrey Jackson trying to dodge trials, or specifically royal
Yes.
commissions. Not too familiar with the trials that he's. I'm sure he has, in fairness, undergone hardship. But again, we're talking about a pandemic here that has literally killed 3.8 million people, and he's talking about it in terms of opportunities. Think of it as an opportunity to show what a super duper Jehovah's Witness you are, which will incidentally benefit me. Oh, good grief.
For example, many parents have said that they've had more time with their children to do what it says at Deuteronomy 6, verses 6 and 7. These words that I am commanding you today must be on your heart, and you must inculcate them in your sons, and speak of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk on the road, and when you lie down, and when you get up. Many of us have more time to sit in our house during the pandemic, whether we wanted to or not. But if this was your circumstance, hopefully you made good use of the opportunity.
Again, describing it as an opportunity and quoting that scripture, which is directly describing child indoctrination. I mean, you change inculcate to indoctrinate. Indoctrinate your children when you lie down, when you get up. Basically, indoctrinate your children all the time. We can see why Geoffrey Jackson would be such a fan of that verse.
Yeah, no, to inculcate is to instill an attitude, idea, or habit by persistent instruction. And like, what child, who likes that? You know,
Yeah.
that is definitely blatantly child indoctrination. Yeah.
When you go to school, your teacher doesn't say, right, today, class, I'm going to be inculcating the following facts into you.
Yeah.
It carries a bit more weight than that, doesn't it, that word? Thank you, by the way, to Tony Morris, who's tuning in. Always appreciate Tony giving a little bit of his Macallan's Fund to support the channel.
Jehovah gave the command to Israel because he knew that spiritually strong families would be happy families. The same is true today. When your family stays close to Jehovah, you bring a blessing to yourself and your congregation. But you parents are not just caring for your children's spiritual needs. You have spiritual needs too. Jehovah's command in Deuteronomy chapter 6 said that Israelite parents must have his words on their heart. Notice the benefit you gain when you make time for your spirituality. Proverbs 20 and verse 7 explains it this way. The righteous one is walking in his integrity. Happy are his children who come after him. So righteous parents make for happy children. Parents, we know that you know these things. We commend you for what you're doing, and we're praying for Jehovah's Holy Spirit to give you strength even when you feel tired out.
I can't really get along with this whole idea of righteous parents make for happy children. In fact, I think that Geoffrey Jackson is a bit wide of the mark, period, in suggesting that happiness comes from devotion to Jehovah's Witness ideas and teachings. Because, you know, thinking back to my time as a JW, I remember having a conversation once with a friend of mine who was an elder, and he just one day, we were in a conversation and he said, did you know, Lloyd, I think he said a fifth of our congregation are on antidepressants. And looking back in hindsight, it doesn't really come as too much of a surprise, but at the time it was a huge surprise. But now, of course, you think about how detrimental such a doomsday black and white us versus them ideology is going to be to someone's mental health, and how draining and exhausting it must be to be so suspicious of everyone around you who isn't a Jehovah's Witness. It's unsurprising that it's going to take a toll, and yet here Geoffrey Jackson is saying, actually, no, it makes you happy, and it's going to make your kids happy too.
And the association that he's chosen to make between the Deuteronomy chapter 6 and happiness is not even an accurate one, because if you read that chapter, it's talking about the rules and regulations that Jehovah passed to Israel for him to follow so that Jehovah can deliver on his promises. So it's kind of like, all right, well, if you do what I say, I'm going to give you, prosperity, and you're going to be able to become numerous. And that's not at all what Geoffrey Jackson is saying. He's like, if you inculcate the words that we, the governing body, have taught you, he's not really referring to Deuteronomy chapter 6 as a whole and what's being discussed there. He's saying you'll have happiness. You'll be a happy family. Your kids will be prosperous. But no, it's
it doesn't tarry with my experience, and certainly it seems with yours.
No.
Thank you, David Taylor. Lloyd, I love your vids, and congrats on surpassing 90,000 subscribers. 100,000 is right around the corner. That sounds more distant now, but in this case, it actually is. Wonderful. Thank you so much, David. Yeah, it's nice to hit that milestone. Let's press on with the video.
Our spiritual routine is even more important when we're being tested. The families we met from India and Brazil were aware of this too. They shared what they've done to adapt their spiritual routine to meet the challenge of the pandemic.
We go out in the ministry together as a family much more often than we did before.
Saturday is a special day for us. We work together as a family every Saturday morning. And we make plans with other families who are also close friends of our children. We always have a very enjoyable time.
When we conduct our Bible studies, we have them sit in. The kids watch us closely and they learn from us.
That's a little bit weird though, isn't it? Having your kids sit in on a Bible study.
They watch us closely and they learn from us.
I mean, what if that week you're talking about, masturbation?
Yes.
Or something like involving sexual immorality or something. Do they have to sit on those ones as well? I don't know. It just...
We were in the car in field service when I found out what masturbation was. And that was because I insisted on knowing it after reading it in the Young People Ask book.
They're not going to do that in a reenactment for JW Broadcasting, are they? But yeah, okay.
The awkward situations that arise.
Worship has played a very important role. It's a relaxed atmosphere in which we can have a good time.
One of the games we play is you name a Bible character and the next person has to come up with someone whose name starts with the last letter of the name that was just said. This way the kids are getting to know new Bible characters and they're learning a lot about them.
That sounds like a terrible game. That sounds like a recipe.
This is why your kids are bored.
That's a recipe for raising messed up children, isn't it?
Yes.
Hey kids, I've got a fun idea. Let's test your knowledge of Bible characters, specifically how their names are spelled in a particular language that almost certainly isn't the language that they were familiar with.
I can't even imagine this being remotely fun.
It's not. It's also kind of, again, irrelevant because let's say the word Jehovah, well, that's a made-up word. It's, technically you're supposed to say Yahweh, aren't you? But Jehovah isn't. It's an English European word, with a H on the end. The Hebrew word didn't have a H. I just don't get the relevance of doing that unless it's just purely for the sake keeping children busy with something for the sake of it and giving them a memory exercise for the sake of it. That's what this sounds like to me. I don't think there's anything kind of profound or intellectually stimulating about this. No. It's purely about let's cram their heads with as many Bible names as possible.
Yeah, I can't see what you could possibly be learning from that. Also, is it just me or are they picking the translators in an odd way again? Because it seems like when the Brazilian couples are speaking, they've got like it almost sounds like a European translator translating for them. And then as soon as they have the Indian couple speaking, they've specifically targeted having that as their translator. I don't know. It's almost like if they get the European translator to translate for the Indian couple, it's almost like maybe it doesn't sound foreign enough or something. And they're like, oh, we need a different voice doing this.
Yeah, they do this sometimes, don't they? To be honest, I don't worry so much. I guess the thing that irritates me most when they're doing translations is when they do fake crying, when the translator turns on the tears and starts sobbing, which we clearly know they have no reason to do that. But yeah, I take your point. It's a little bit odd how they arrange these translations.
One of our projects is a model of Noah's Ark.
Our kids have learned almost all the original songs.
So, Milton says that his children have learned almost all of the original songs. My question is, do these original songs that Milton's kids have been made to learn, do they include this one?
It's simple, so easy. And it's something we know with a 3-4.
Oh, God.
Love will grow. Exclusive devotion. Love's as strong as death. You are bone of my bones. You are flesh of my flesh.
Yeah, no, again, don't make your kids learn songs like this as part of family worship. It's
No, you can't have the steamy kingdom melodies. Or well,
maybe they skip the steamy kingdom melodies, and maybe it's I'm just a cart made up of bits and pieces.
Oh Lord!
A frame, a handle, and some wheels.
I don't know if that's better.
It's just assuming that anything that is spewed out on jw.org or JW Broadcasting is suitable for children, which
It's all
of course
appropriate for kids.
it really, really isn't, to the point where parents have been writing in complaining about the convention videos being too gory, you know.
God, I wish I could see those letters.
Oh, I really would as well, yeah, definitely.
We've played a few games using some of the activities on jw.org.
We made some models of Bible accounts.
We enacted Bible scenes and role plays of Bible characters.
Yeah, at this point, I am convinced that this dude is in the hostage situation. And my message to him would be, blink twice if you need help.
I think he might be getting electrocuted too, because he's kind of like...
I think at one point later on, shortly, he will be electrocuted because he springs to life and says like 3 or 4 words. Just like a token thing that he has to say to convince us that he's actually alive.
Come on,
and
show
not
the
just like
audience
a
you're alive.
waxwork. But again, isn't it so, when she's talking, bless her, I hope she wakes up one day and watches this and laughs, but it's so unconvincing and forced and contrived. Yeah, and wooden and weird.
There was one time that we wrapped our son in toilet paper.
Yeah.
And he was Lazarus.
Yeah, that's a fantastic thing to do during a pandemic when basic commodities are in short supply, to the point where, you know, shops are running out of toilet paper. Hey, son, I've got an idea. You remember Lazarus? Here's a roll of toilet. Here's a roll of toilet paper, not used toilet paper. We hope. Go crazy, you know. Oh, good grief.
I guess we know that where their pandemic toilet paper supply went to.
I am not the child who's done this activity, and I'm triggered just hearing about it, quite frankly. And
why? Go ahead.
And I also, surely it's wasteful. I mean, this couple's in Brazil. Brazil has a huge problem with deforestation, and here we're talking about wasting toilet paper on insane reenactments of Lazarus. I mean, again, it seems to be a bit tone deaf, you know?
I wonder if this is all just like a clever ruse to get their kid to, you know, get locked into the room for 3 days. So like, no, kid, you're Lazarus. You're waiting for Jesus to come and resurrect you.
I would go mad if I walked in on Jessica wrapping herself in toilet paper. I'd be like, do you not know how much that stuff costs?
That's wickedly expensive.
Yeah, apparently if it's for a Bible reenactment involving someone being brought back from the dead.
At least when worldly parents wrap up their kids in toilet paper, they get to go trick-or-treating and go door to door and get candy and hang out with their friends.
Yeah. How would that work, though, with Halloween? It's going to get soiled, isn't it? It's going to get damp. It's going to... Especially if it's raining. I can't see that ending well, to be honest, Amanda.
Yeah, fair enough. Hey, I didn't celebrate Halloween when I was a kid. I'm only guessing here.
Yeah, we're speaking as people who weren't allowed to celebrate Halloween.
And we have considered timely articles appearing on jw.org.
We also did a project on the metal image of Daniel's prophecy.
Our son enjoys family worship because we do things that he likes, something that holds his attention, and it's fun.
I think your son might just have anger issues resulting from frustration at being raised in a cult, and is taking them out on that pile of boxes.
That was barely contained aggression right there.
Yeah, indeed.
I like that they also cut that scene really quick just to eliminate the anticlimactic nature of that scene. Like, it would have been just a bunch of boxes would have fallen, and that's it.
Exactly. It's not like, I mean, the image is supposed to be a stone was cut from the mountain and hit the statue at its base and it fell. And, you know, all you have is just a pile of boxes on the floor. Yep. And the son is supposed to be taking some profound message from just what essentially amounts to an act of vandalism on some boxes.
Right? What did he learn? How to throw? Like,
yeah. Oh, good grief.
And seeing them happy makes us happy.
There he is. Yeah, I've got to pause it here. So, in case anyone was wondering how 6.5 million land-dwelling species fit into Noah's Ark, well, thanks to this family worship project, we can get some idea of how 6.5 million species fit into an oversized shoebox. This is how it's done.
The funny thing is, though, is there's still some animals there that are left outside of the Ark.
Oh dear, they're going to die.
They didn't fit. So.
Yeah, sorry, too late for you.
So, I mean, maybe just an exercise that will allow the child to realize that there's no possible way that all of those species will fit into the Ark. So this could actually be useful.
If they had, I'll tell you what, if they had dinosaur toys, that would have been the appropriate time, wouldn't it? Just to have them on the outside. Sorry, dinosaurs.
Sorry.
Because that's how they have it in the literature, isn't it?
Yep.
But yeah, it just, on the one hand, I can laugh at this because it's just it's a visualization of how implausible the Noah story is. But at the same time, you look at that girl on the left. You know, she is, as far as she's concerned, she's involved in an educational project involving a historical event, and that's the sad thing for me, is that her mind is being filled with this nonsense as though it's real. You know, and this will put her at a huge disadvantage when she goes in later in life, when she encounters people who, you know, have critical thinking skills, and there she is thinking that this thing actually happened, you know, literally.
Yeah. No, absolutely. This would definitely bring it to life for a child in a way that could be damaging. Yeah.
And it's not about any kind of, again, there's no real educational element to it per se. It's really more about just indoctrination, isn't it? In other words, it doesn't matter that those animals are completely not to scale.
Well, while they're not doing this, they're not doing anything else, like you know, potentially learning another language, or taking up a sport, or you know,
playing the piano, you name it. Yeah,
right, exactly.
Any
they're
number of
building
things.
arcs. Like
any number of better things that this girl could be doing, definitely.
Yeah.
All this has got us close to each other.
And it also helped us to draw closer to
Jehovah. Oh, he speaks. We have confirmation.
Life.
Although, is there a cattle prod involved? I'd like to know, just off camera. I
think they cut the spark right before the.
They did. So yeah, at least we know he's alive.
With Jehovah's help, we can get through anything.
They're all like, what are we waving at?
Perhaps something those families are doing can work or is already working for your family.
Yeah, I'm going to take a hard pass there, actually, Geoffrey. Wasting toilet paper, reenacting implausible Bible stories, making children memorize the names of Bible characters based on their spelling in modern languages. No, none of that for me, thank you. I think it's all again purely about indoctrination, isn't it? I think we can safely say.
Yeah.
So perhaps producer Bob, we can take some super chats, and just a quick thank you to Joanna Alabaster for your super chat. And thank you to David Taylor. I think I might have shown, I did show David's. Simon Instone says, imagine being in lockdown and being preached to all day, every day. Indeed. I mean, I don't know what it would be like to be on the receiving end, because obviously they're doing it by letter writing and badgering people by phone, I guess, depending on what the local laws are, because phone witnessing isn't actually, I think, allowed legally in the UK. Producer Bob, am I right there? Nod if I'm... Yeah, producer Bob is saying no. I remember the advice to us in the UK was all those bits about phone witnessing that you see in the literature, they don't apply to us because we're literally legally not allowed to do that in the UK. But in every other country where it's allowed, or if they're not allowed to do phone witnessing, they have to do the letter writing together, as we saw there, as a family. So that's not a fun way of spending a lockdown. The shunned experience, Jordan says, make good use of the opportunity to access critical thinking skills. No, just keep on indoctrinating poor innocent children. That's what it amounts to, really, Jordan. Yeah.
Yeah, give them busy work. Keep their minds occupied so that they don't learn anything cool in lockdown.
Indeed. Eyes on the Prize says, I feel bad for kids that already had no life to have getting out to even the Kingdom Hall taken away. No sports or extracurriculars to do, trapped with parents and Zoom. True, although, you know, it's the same regardless of your religion, isn't it? I mean, I've had the same experience as a parent with my children, and it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking when you've got a little girl and all she wants to do is go and play with other kids, and she's just that little bit too young to understand. Actually, she's definitely too young to understand that this is a sort of once in a lifetime deal that even my generation didn't have to contend with, or the generation before that, or the generation before that. She just happens to have been born at that crucially wrong point in history where this is impacting her childhood, and explaining that to a child is frustrating. But the way they carry on in this, it's almost as though, it's only affecting Jehovah's Witness children. Clearly that's not the case, and clearly you can get your children through it without being one of Jehovah's Witnesses and without wrapping them up in bloody toilet paper. Patrick says, I see. Jehovah's Witnesses weren't doing a good enough job having family worship, so Jehovah caused a pandemic. So Jehovah's Witnesses could have more time together. That's what we heard, Patrick, at the beginning. Apparently, it's not just a pandemic that's killed 3.8 million people. It's a quote-unquote opportunity for Jehovah's Witnesses to show how super-duper they are with their faith. JW Review with John Maple says the most intense physically and mentally in parents usually end up having the most rebellious kids that end up leaving the Borg. Yeah, I'm thinking back to one of my closest friends in my congregation. I actually write about him in my book. His parents were super, super strict. And my parents were fairly strict, but they took strictness to a whole other level. And my friend, I actually ended up losing touch with him, although we've since reconnected, because he was disfellowshipped for being gay. I don't know how that fits in necessarily with being rebellious, you don't rebel by being gay, but yeah, it just goes to show that just being strict parents and just trying to control your children isn't going to necessarily shape the outcome of their lives. If anything, it could end up having the opposite effect to that intended. Wendy says, why do they always think they're being tested? It's all one big test, isn't it, in the build-up to Armageddon, I guess.
They're always being tested. They're always under attack.
They're under attack by the family unit, we've learned, is under attack, not just by Geoffrey Jackson, but by Satan. Dan D says, maybe he's fading, sit very quietly, and nobody will notice if I'm here or not. Yeah, so this is referring to that poor chap who seemed to me to be terrified. Just terrified.
He was trying to blend in with the furniture.
And even at the end, can we go back? I don't really want to lose my place. Let's see if we can go back to those waves. Let's do the wave. Yeah, I want to show you the waves again. Hang on. Let's see the waves.
With Jehovah's help,
look
we
at
can
waving.
Get through anything.
Oh, I missed
Oh,
him.
where's he's
Damn you.
There he is.
Draw closer to Jehovah.
Right, I'll just pause it a moment and then it should resume. Yeah, that's not a natural wave. That is just not a natural wave.
No.
Poor chap. I wonder what his story is. Maybe I'll get to interview him on the channel someday. Let me find my place again. There we go.
Let's review some suggestions that can help your family's spiritual routine. For families with young children.
Yeah, for families with young children, we're going to give you a whole damn list. These are suggestions that we're so keen on that we've made a list for you as a leadership that is mostly childless. Again, not knocking those who give advice without being parents, but let's again just reiterate the fact that Geoffrey Jackson is literally giving parents here a list as someone who isn't a parent himself.
Yep, and he's coming in as like a recap after the actual parents were talking about their experiences.
Yeah, indeed. But he's actually going to give 3 lists, and the third list is going to be have a slightly different tone to it, as we shall see.
Dramatize Bible scenes. Your children may like to dress up and make props to bring the account to life and remember the lessons. And the good thing is, you don't need expensive props to make this interesting.
Yeah, fake beards don't have to be that expensive.
And tons of toilet paper. We all know how cheap toilet paper is.
Toilet paper, well, take it from me, Amanda. I won't have you say this on my channel and spread misinformation. Toilet paper is expensive, Amanda. Maybe they sell it differently in Canada. But don't you go putting ideas in Jessica's. No, it's bizarre, isn't it? How
it is.
It's yeah. Bring the Bible to life. If you have to bring it to life, you're kind of admitting, aren't you, that it's boring as hell?
Yes.
Aren't you?
Yes. But
no one says bring Star Wars to life, do they?
No.
Or bring Peppa Pig to life. Hate Peppa Pig, by the way. No one has to say that with things that are genuinely interesting. It's only with things that are intensely dull and tedious and boring and instantly forgettable where you have to, quote, bring it to life.
Play memory games. This could be based on recent points from the meetings or something they've been reading or watching on JW Broadcasting.
So not just generic memory games to help you improve your memory.
It's got to be something you've learned at the meeting.
Memory games specific to stuff that benefits him. Yeah.
Try a jw.org activity for children together.
Oh.
These are under the Bible teaching section of the website.
A jw.org
if you have
activity.
Young children, I suspect you've been there before.
And he says, if you have young children, I suspect you've been there before. Is it me, Amanda? Or is that another way of saying, if you're a parent and you're not already using these activities, shame on you?
Yep. He's totally guilting parents. If you haven't gone there, you should definitely be there.
That's a very smarmy way of saying, shame on you if you're not using these activities. But speaking of jw.org activities, I thought it might be helpful for viewers who aren't familiar with them to see an example of a couple of them. So here's a jw.org join the dots activity.
Well, that's not terrifying at all.
Not remotely terrifying. And you can see there at the top of the screen it says Bible Teachings Children Picture Activities, just to confirm that this is a picture activity for children. And it doesn't need much explaining, does it? I mean, we have a woman dying because her body is turning to salt.
Yeah.
And it's apparently age appropriate for children to connect the dots and fill in the grisly picture.
It's got a close-up of her face being twisted by the pain of her body being crystallized by salt. And this is totally an appropriate activity for children. Yeah, let's turn this into a connect the dots puzzle. That's appropriate.
This is Geoffrey Jackson's idea of an appropriate way to spend lockdown is connect the dots on a woman dying because her body is turning into a mineral. And then we have another activity here. Solomon acts wisely.
Oh, dear.
And Just because you probably can't see, I've actually downloaded the PDF so you can see. There's the image, yeah. So,
Wow.
In case this needs explaining to anyone, we have here a soldier holding a baby, and three of the dots that the child needs to connect is the dagger.
I see it. Yes.
That the soldier is threatening the baby with, because Solomon has just said, I've got a really clever way of figuring out who should have custody here. We'll threaten the baby's life.
Yep, they've got a terrified mother, and the baby looks even scared. Like,
yeah. First of all, imagine if that's how we sorted out custody battles today. Bring in the child. Bob, will you fire up the chainsaw, please? Right, I've got a really good idea. It's not remotely wise. It's just not wise. And furthermore, you're taking this barbaric account. Granted, I don't think they killed the baby in the account, but you're taking this barbaric account and making children literally connect the dots. And I'm sorry, how is this not going to traumatize children during lockdown who are made to do this?
Yep.
This is Geoffrey Jackson's idea. I mean, thank goodness the guy doesn't have children at this point, if this is his advice. But this is his idea of how to raise kids and alleviate their boredom.
Oh, this will absolutely keep your kids happy during lockdown. Yeah. No.
Yeah. If it doesn't traumatize them, maybe it'll make them happy. Good grief.
And here are some ideas for families with teens. Practice what-if situations. Perhaps let your teen choose a situation they're concerned about.
Yeah, what should we do if someone gets abused? Well, maybe we should go to the elders. Maybe we should skip out the police part. Maybe we should go straight to the elders. I don't know. For me, Amanda, that was quite triggering, that, especially directed at teens, you know?
Yeah. Practice what-if situations. No, I totally agree. I mean...
because they have the chapter, of course, in the Young People Ask book, dealing with, you know, written specifically for abuse victims, and nowhere in that does it say, in fact, nowhere in Watchtower literature, let's just be clear, does it say you should definitely go to the police.
No.
There's one 1997 Awake article, which is reporting on what was said in a congress in Sweden. And it's literally reporting what was said in the Congress rather than giving it as advice to parents. And in that it says, if someone makes an improper advance, you should let the police know. But that's clearly not specifically singling out child sexual abuse. That's the closest you get in decades of literature when it comes to, you know, how to handle abuse. That's the closest you get to go to the authorities.
Yeah,
so,
and when you say
knows,
improper advance, that's not even remotely in the same realm.
Could mean something completely different to.
Could be somebody talking
abuse.
to you in a way that is, you know, is crossing a line. But
yeah.
you know, it's
So yeah, this whole what if situations thing was a little bit left a bitter taste.
Talk about goals. These can be short-term or long-term goals. Let your teen tell why they chose the goal and what steps they feel will help them reach it.
I'm guessing if the teen said, I'm going to be a movie star, or I'm going to be a singer, or I'm going to be a doctor, I'm guessing that wouldn't go down so well with the sort of parent Geoffrey Jackson has in mind.
No, you'd get, well, they don't need doctors in paradise, son.
Yeah.
Daughter.
Why would you want to pursue a career in Satan's system of things? When we said, you know, Judith, we need to sit down and talk about goals, what we meant was you tell us all about how desperate you are to pioneer.
Yeah.
You tell us how desperate you are to go to Bethel or participate in a construction project.
Let's talk about baptism to make sure you're roped into this cult, and if you decide to leave it when you're older, you have no choice. You know, your whole family.
He's clearly just not talking about any old goals. There are certain goals that will actually get a teenager in trouble if they voice them and try to stick to them.
Read or watch a life story. Again, let your teen choose a life story of someone they're interested in. Remember, though, that you don't have to use every suggestion. Talk to your family, pray about it, and try what you think can make a difference for you. And of course, there's nothing wrong with watching JW Broadcasting during a family worship.
No, there is, Geoffrey.
After all, that's why we're here.
That's so it is.
But when you do, try to make it more than just watching TV. Take time to talk about the program as a family, either at the end of the broadcast or after each segment.
Yeah, so it goes from bad to worse. This guy just wants us to watch JW Broadcasting episodes that he features in, because he features in a fair few of them. Watch me on Geoffrey on JW Broadcasting.
Yeah.
At this point, I'm in despair at all of the kids whose lockdowns have been ruined by precisely the sort of advice this man is offering.
Yeah, I mean, now kids, in addition, because this isn't advice. Like, instead of the really boring family Bible study, you could do some of these things to spruce it up. It's like, on top of your boring, horrible indoctrination sessions, let's also do Bible dramas and memory games and boring games that involve like picking Bible names. It's just, yeah, I will follow none of this advice, Mr. Jackson.
and he's suggesting not just watching JW Broadcasting, but having a discussion afterwards.
Yes, don't watch it just like you're watching television.
how free are, let's say, the teenage children at the end to say, well, that was a load of old bollocks. You know,
right.
What will the ramifications be if your feedback after watching it is less than glowing? If you actually have some concerns about what you've seen, and obviously anyone who follows this channel will know that there's plenty of very concerning material in some of these broadcasts. It's all, again, it's a very controlled existence, isn't it? Imagine, I mean, it was bad enough for me being raised as a witness where we used to have family worship, and mostly it just involved, I guess we'd watch the occasional video, like the organization behind the name, and sometimes I'd like prepare little talks, and I'd use the back of the armchair as my rostrum, and I look back and think, it actually wasn't all that bad. But being forced to sit through JW Broadcasting and some of the material that's completely inappropriate for young minds, I shudder when I think what this generation of children are being subjected to, especially in a lockdown situation.
Absolutely, yeah.
Those are the suggestions.
Oh.
Now, here are the necessities for your family.
So it's the suggestions. We see the tone shifting now.
Yeah,
There's suggestions, and then there are necessities. In other words, these are the things that you don't have any choice over. You have to do them if you're going to be one of Jehovah's Witnesses.
This is what we're telling you to do.
Pray together every day. Try to include the feelings and concerns of each family member. Keep attending the meetings. Help each other to pay attention and participate. Unlike being in the Kingdom Hall, we may have many distractions when we attend from home. Share in the ministry together. As the pandemic continues to limit how we do our preaching work, talk about the different forms of the ministry you can do and how each family member feels about them. Listen and encourage everyone to do their best.
So again, these are literally things where you can get in trouble. I mean, I don't know how they would police how much someone prays, but certainly if you don't do any attending meetings and you don't do any sharing in the ministry together, questions will be asked, and you could end up being, at the minimum, classed as bad association and shunned.
Yeah, and get even less association now, because lockdown.
Yeah. So
yeah.
It's no longer just Geoffrey Jackson dishing out parenting advice as a non-parent. It's now also Geoffrey Jackson saying, do this or there will be consequences.
Yep. And I mean, I'm pretty sure at the Zoom meetings, they're pretty insistent on you switching on your camera so they can make sure your whole family is in attendance.
Apparently so, yeah. Apparently they do.
So
I think
it's being enforced.
It's going to. I would imagine it changes from congregation to congregation, but I have heard some horror stories of elders policing people in the Zoom meeting and making sure cameras are switched on and that kind of thing.
Finally, we urge you parents to keep doing what you already know is vital. Be alert for signs that your children are struggling with negative emotions or stress. If you sense that they are, please read the article, Help Your Children Cope with Stress. It's in the Awake of July 22, 1993, pages 10 and 11. There you'll find wonderful suggestions on what you can do.
Well, that's what he says. I actually went and looked up the article, and if it's the same one, it's a very, very brief article, and I would say that the advice is mixed in terms of its usefulness. So early on in the article, it says, Rick and Sue sought counselling when their 6-year-old son developed uncontrollably rude behaviour at home. After meeting with the entire family, the counsellor observed something. The parents intellectualised a lot with long and often excessive explanations, he said. Now, you could, if you were a Jehovah's Witness, say, oh, well, that's good. It's telling parents who are struggling with children who are overcome with stress. It's here telling them to go seek a counsellor. But if you actually read it properly, that's not what it's saying. It's purely saying, here's a couple that did seek counselling, and here's the advice they were given. So the focus is not so much on the fact that they sought counselling, it's on the advice that they were incidentally given and how that applies, how that can be applied to how to raise children. For me, the main thrust of the article is what it says to conclude. And this is what it says. Raising children in a stress-filled world presents special challenges to parents. Study of the Bible has helped many to meet these challenges. This is what we would expect, for the author of the Bible is also the originator of family life. So their advice, ultimately, for how to deal with children who have anxiety or stress is read the Bible. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much their advice for everything. I mean, and you're going to find some pretty lousy advice in the Bible when you actually read it. So. Oh
God. Yeah. Yeah. Be selective. I would urge parents if you're going to read the Bible to your children.
The whole article is kind of weird. I mean, and again, it talks about it in the very beginning of the article. It says that many children find no one home physically or emotionally when they need to talk. And again, shunning. It's ridiculous that they would show any kind of concern for the emotional well-being of children needing to talk when they actively tell the parents of children not to talk to those children if they stop believing as they do.
Yeah, when it suits us to look like we're all kind and caring and concerned, about ostracism and isolation, we'll play that role, but we'll completely ditch that concern when it comes to our shunning policy. Definitely.
Yeah, it's gross.
So we should be wrapping up.
Jehovah loves your family. He knows what you're contending with, and he wants to help you. The pandemic has been just one of many tests we'll face in the last days. Now, that's not meant to discourage you. It's just reality.
Not trying to discourage anyone, but just a reminder, these are the last days.
You're going to be tested repeatedly.
You're going to be tested repeatedly. Police officers are going to come and start rounding you up soon. God. There's going to be a global genocide. I'm going to be riding around in heaven wearing a toga on a heavenly horse with my pal Tony clutching a bottle of Macallan's, going around killing everyone who doesn't respect and observe my authority. There's going to be lots of blood. Billions of people are going to die. And afterwards, there's going to be a whole lot of bodies to to bury, but don't be discouraged or anything. Let's look at the plus side. Oh, good grief. But
you're going to be tested, and that's okay.
But he can't help weaving it in, can he? And this has been, for me, probably the main criticism of their COVID handling. And let's be clear, their COVID handling has been mostly very good, because they could have, for example, said, screw social distancing. Yeah. We have to attend at Kingdom Halls, and we're going to order Jehovah's Witnesses to go and attend meetings. They could have done that. They didn't. Mm-hmm. But if I had to single out probably the biggest issue I have with their COVID handling, it's the fact that they've capitalized on it to drill home their fear-mongering and their doomsday narrative. And they literally cannot get through one of these updates, apparently, without doing that, without weaving in Armageddon somewhere and reminding people that it's the last days.
Yep.
Home stretch.
Of course, we also want these tests to end, and they will. When you look back at the pandemic from the new world, it will seem momentary and light, even if it doesn't seem so now. In the meantime, we continue to pray for all of you, parents, children, and all in our worldwide spiritual family. May Jehovah bless your love and endurance. From the world headquarters of Jehovah's Witnesses, this is JW Broadcasting.
They take a little too much delight in doing that closing. This is JW Broadcasting. Just a little bit. Ugh.
They're competing as to who can do it in the most memorable way. I
Right?
would suggest Stephen Lett wins that competition.
It's not like they're standing in front of a mirror, like reciting that line. At least that's what it looks like to me.
But yeah, finally we're at the end, and wow, just a typical. Well, he used the word opportunity, didn't he? That's what the coronavirus is to Geoffrey Jackson. It's an opportunity for Jehovah's Witnesses to double down on their indoctrination. And this isn't really about their welfare. He concludes there by talking about, we're praying for you all and we're really concerned. Blah. No, don't be silly. You just want to make sure you continue your control, even in a situation where Jehovah's Witnesses aren't able to assemble together.
Yep. Especially over your kids. Make sure you indoctrinate your kids.
So let's take one or two chats, and then we'll do a viewer invasion.
I'm really looking forward to the viewer invasion.
Lathendralis says, well, when you share a problem you're having with a JW friend, the first thing they ask is, have you prayed about that? Yeah, it's not really a helpful suggestion.
Never.
I would suggest.
Never.
L.A. Poli says, it's bad enough this was depicted in the book of Bible stories. Oh, yeah, so that's the Solomon thing. But to face children colour and focus on a baby being stabbed or beheaded is beyond bad parenting. The governing body should be ashamed. Yeah, that was disgraceful, those picture activities that Geoffrey Jackson apparently wants children to be doing. I don't understand that one, John.
I think maybe because they're saying that they have a magazine still from 1993, or they're referring to old literature. The Awake article from July 22nd, 1993.
I can't really criticize anyone for being a hoarder, though. Because, I kind of one myself.
Fair enough. Look at that.
And Gerard says, that is so offensive. How much stress are Jehovah's Witness children caused at school by being ostracized due to their insane rules? Very true indeed. I don't know whether I picked up on Matthew Wall's super chat. Thank you very much, Matthew. There was also one from Huston Mises and one from Joanna Alabaster. I think I might have mentioned Joanna's. So thank you so much to everyone who sent in super chats. What we will now do, Producer Bob, if you're keeping an eye on the live chat, Producer Bob is dropping a link in the live chat, and this allows you to actually connect with this live stream once I allow you on. I will, however, just point out that there are some rules, and these are being spelled out below. We ask that you please show your camera and also keep comments and questions respectful and on topic. The camera rule is purely to filter out trolls, because what I've found is that trolls tend to be less brave.
They scatter in the light.
They scatter in the light, exactly. Amanda knows all about trolls because Amanda is a moderator, and yeah.
I thought you were going to
fends
say
them off.
Amanda is a troll.
No. You fend them off valiantly. But so far, I mean, I'm looking, and so far, no one's in the mood to chat, unless it's just some kind of delay at my end.
In the mood to chat? What?
We'll just have to talk amongst ourselves.
It's me. I'm scaring everybody.
Okay, so we do have someone. Welcome to Mormon Jesus 69420. That's actually my favorite of the Mormon Jesuses. So welcome.
Thank you.
So
can you hear me well?
I can hear you. Yeah. So what were your thoughts on what you've been watching?
Well, the most infuriating thing for me about, I mean, the whole Jehovah's Witness, but this broadcasting in the general, is that they try to pretend that, oh, we care so much about children, they are so precious to us, they are so important, but they also treat them as dispensable. They don't care about them at all. In reality, their well-being, like mental well-being, about what they're being taught, the way they're being treated when it comes to child sex abuse, like, we don't care about it. You should have protected yourself about that. And they expect parents to love them and treat them so nicely. Everybody in congregation treat them so nicely. But as soon as they do something out of line, step out of the line, do something bad, throw them out in the wind. We don't care about you. You're not one of us anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. It's a huge double standard, isn't it? To feign interest. I suppose to some degree, I like to think that on some level they are genuinely interested. But like you say, when they have these appalling policies that are putting children directly in harm's way, for them to then be, for example, talking about how Jesus cared for the children, and and this is the angle that we're coming at this from. This is why we're giving this advice. It's just a huge double standard, isn't it?
Yeah, it's terrible, really, to be honest.
Indeed. Well, thank you for.
I'm also really upset about it because I have family members. I have 2 cousins that are still young, in being affected by it, and I really fear about their future, in the sense.
Yeah, it's. Do you mean they are Jehovah's Witnesses?
Yeah, and their parents are really deep into that. I think the last time I had contact, my uncle was ministerial servant, and aunt was really into the whole JW thing.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking, to be honest. I mean, I've got nieces who, as far as I know, are being raised as Jehovah's Witnesses, at least by one parent.
I have a niece too.
Yeah, it's soul destroying, isn't it? To think of them. To think of the next generation having to deal with this crap.
It was my niece watching Caleb and Sophia, and watching my niece observe this that made me go and Google my religious beliefs, because at that time I was like Pomey, and once I saw her, I was like, that is clear indoctrination. What is the world saying about this? And then it all came unraveled.
So we definitely feel your pain, but hopefully by talking about it, with your help indeed, we're at least shining a light on these issues. So thank you so much for joining us, Mormon Jesus 69420. Okay. Bye. Take care. And we now have, wasn't he nice? Pleasant chap. And welcome Pomo, physically out, mentally out, JW Freedom. Hello, Pomo.
Hello, how are you?
Very well indeed. Congratulations on having freedom from JWs, it sounds like.
Yes, it feels good. It feels good. I've been through a lot. I was actually molested by my aunt's husband. Went before 2 judicial committees. And the last one was back in 2015. And I didn't know that there was a big scandal going on where someone was suing the organization for what I had been going through. But it's been a lot. But I've been an advocate for a lot of young people that I know, and speaking out against the person who did it to me. And I will continue to do so.
Well done. Well, the one thing I've learned, because I've obviously interviewed a number of abuse survivors like yourself by this point, and one thing I've learned is that it's extremely challenging for them to do that, because it's such a traumatic experience that to actually describe it is almost to relive it and to give further agency to the person that's done it. So I understand, or try to understand as much as I can, how traumatic it is to even speak out. But although I can't fully understand it, what it does give me is an immense respect for the bravery that's involved. So, you know, I take my hat off to you for your bravery. Presumably, you know, what we've just watched on the governing body update wasn't very reassuring for you.
Oh, I laugh at their stuff because, I mean, at the end of the day, I know what they're really on. You know, like I said, the 2 judicial committees that were held, the second one was put together by a CO. And so I know those members up top are well aware of what's going on in the cover up. And I saw the lie that he told during the Royal Commission hearing. And so I know exactly what they're on. So,
yeah. Well, well done for calling him out on that, you know, through your comment there. And, you know, his awful testimony during the Australian Royal Commission should follow him around, shouldn't it? He shouldn't have freedom, as far as I'm concerned, to give parenting advice and to feign interest in the welfare of children after his disgraceful performance at the Australian Royal Commission, in which he essentially tried to lie and obfuscate and mislead an investigation into one of the worst things that can happen to a child. So he needs calling out on that, doesn't he?
absolutely. Yeah. And I applaud you for always speaking out and being an advocate for us people who, at first, for a long time, I was afraid to speak out. But the person who did me, who molested me, he also molested several other family members. And then there were other people who came forward that he actually fondled that weren't family members. So you know how the organization does. A lot of people are afraid and they want to say, well, we'll just let Jehovah deal with things. But my approach to this is that I still have faith in a Heavenly Father. And I know that he would never vouch for someone covering for molestation. As a matter of fact, in the Bible, it talks about that scripture when a woman was raped and no one was around, that man was to die. So, yeah, I have to continue to keep speaking out.
Well, well done. And again, I think you're incredibly brave. And thank you for
a lot of courage.
Thank you for showing so much courage. In fact, if you could reach out to producer Bob, could you get an email address to Pomo and maybe we can arrange an interview at some point, if that's okay with you. But thank you so much for sharing your time with us. Thanks, Pomo. Take care. Wow. One thing I've learned, Amanda, doing this job is that it just never ends. I mean, there's just so much abuse. I mean, even calling it the tip of the iceberg doesn't seem to do it justice because there's just so much of it. It really is an epidemic, you know?
Yeah. It's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking to see so many of the same stories happening, you know?
Indeed. We're joined by Riley, aka Jexit. How are you, Riley?
I'm great, thanks. How are you doing?
Very well indeed.
Very well.
Please don't forget, I've had Riley on before, but please do check out and subscribe to Riley's marvelous channel, Jexit.
If you're not subscribed, what are you doing?
What's wrong with you? Just what's wrong with you? Shame on you. I feel like right now having a list of requirements on the screen, and one of them should be subscribe to Jexit. Otherwise, you'll die.
Yes.
Yeah, you'll die at Armageddon. So, Riley, what were your thoughts?
I think it's so disingenuous the way that they pretend that they're interested in children. It's really, really obscene. I mean, it's the only reason why they've turned their attention towards children is because they're not recruiting anyone from the ministry. They realize that the children is where they're going to sustain their membership from. But it's no more genuine than McDonald's when they invented the Happy Meal and started putting toys in it. It's not because they genuinely wanted children to be happy. It's because they realize that if you grab a consumer when they're young, you've got them for life. You know, it's exactly the same tactic.
Agreed. It's shameless, isn't it? And you can understand why, especially during the pandemic, they're going to be even more worried about children, because at least when they're in the Kingdom Hall, they can monitor them, can't they? And the elders can see for themselves, I guess, you know, whether young Jimmy is following along in his Bible. But when they're with their families in a lockdown situation, how do you keep control over them? They're going to be terrified, aren't they, of losing their grip on these young minds? And that's essentially what it's all about. It's just control, isn't it?
Yeah, that's basically what the update number 5 was all about. Keep them busy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Busy,
Give them insane toilet roll related tasks and madness. Riley, thank you so much for your input there, and keep up the excellent work over on your channel. Lovely to see you, mate.
Thank you. You too.
Take care. So we also have, I recognise a familiar face.
Ooh.
Someone I met a few years ago in Belgium. Is that right, Roland?
Yes, indeed.
How are you, my friend?
Okay, I'm getting older, 82. So
don't be silly. 82?
Yes.
You're looking sprightly, though.
I've faded out about the year 2000. So I'm having at least 20 years of happiness in my life.
Wonderful. Bravo.
Yeah. What I really wanted to say is that on the way that they are doing their preaching nowadays, I have had at least 3 or 4 conversations back and forth on WhatsApp or on Messenger with Jehovah's Witnesses, whom I used to know in the past. And one of them I have not met in 38 years, and suddenly he wrote me a tear-jerking message about my beloved brother Roland. I thought I was going to run for the bathroom because he was one of the most fanatic people I ever met in that organization. And so we corresponded a bit. I kept it very civil. But at last he began to submerge me with all kinds of the prophecies of the last days and the pandemic and everything. And I said that I have noticed that there was a pandemic, but that I did not want really to go further into this. And he was welcome to chat with me as a friend, but that he should not send me anything more about the propaganda. I did not use the word propaganda, by the way, but I told him that way. And I said, unless you really want to produce some hours of preaching, because I think that was really what he was after.
Try to count his time.
To me by writing. I haven't heard anything about him anymore. It was completely finished.
Yeah,
there were some others too.
You're his dear brother Roland when there's a pandemic and he's running out of ways to count time.
Yes.
But for 38 years, when he could have just knocked on your door and asked you how you're doing, apparently you're not his dear brother Roland.
I was in Ghent, and I think I left Ghent in about 1984. So that's in that time. Before that, I was in Ghent, where your friend Patrick is living. You remember? And so long it has been that I have met him, and that's how suddenly out of the sky on the white horse, maybe with the rope. I hope not, but okay.
Let's just hope the rope stays in place. But heavenly robes tend to. But yeah, that's really chilling, isn't it? And I guess first-hand testimony of the kind of lengths witnesses are having to go to now that they can't do door-to-door preaching. What they're doing is they're just bothering people that they have some vague connection to on social media, or they've held onto their number. So yeah, it's disheartening though, isn't it? Because it is so disingenuous, and they're pretending to care about you, and you know they really don't. You know.
Oh, since I left Ghent, no one over there, I was an elder, by the way, and they could not develop me for anything, but they said that I was I was, how would you say that, my reputation had been damaged in the assembly or the congregation. There's a better word, I think, in English, and that they would recommend the society, or the, how would you say that? Okay, the watchtower thing, that they should take away my status as an elder.
Okay, so you've not been disfellowshipped yet.
I have never been disfellowshipped.
Well,
No,
that might change now.
No, maybe, I don't know. They
Knock
could
on the
not.
door 5 seconds after you've finished.
Oh,
on this,
nobody knows. I think most of them have never known me.
Yeah.
Okay, I met some of the old guard about a year and a half ago. I went to the funeral of one of them. Well, I must say that was a Jehovah's Witness. He was completely right, the right side, almost a fascist in his conviction about it.
Oh, it was hard right.
But on the other hand, he was moderated enough to be, you could talk to this man. So I heard that he died, so I went to his funeral, and I saw all those others. Oh dear, you have never seen that, Lord, you have never seen that. All the men, they were dressed like princes. Really. Shirt, how you say that, the tie, everything. It was in the winter, so they had a nice coat and everything. All the men, I just noticed. And then I saw their ladies. And I, hey, what happened here? They were all like hags, like old witches and everything, clothed in very cheap things, while the husbands, they were really like the princes.
The guys were dressed more nicer than the ladies.
No, not only not nice, but the ladies, they really were awful.
Okay.
No makeup, no. I know these ladies from when they were young, and so this shocked me so much. It's really terrible. Okay.
Indeed. Well, thank you so much for sharing it's been lovely to reconnect with you, Roland, and thank you for sharing your experience. It's been very helpful. Okay. Take care, Roland.
Bye-bye.
It is helpful, isn't it, to learn more about,
Yes.
what effect these bizarre restrictions or guidance are having on people, and who are being harassed out of nowhere by Jehovah's Witnesses they once knew. We have 39 Crossroads. Welcome, 39.
Yeah, hey, how you doing? Yeah, first off, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, welcome.
Okay, yeah. So I'd like to thank you for your channel and everything you put out, first and foremost. I mean, just on that note, I wanted to talk about how, I have been sent letters by, Jehovah's Witness relatives during the pandemic, and it's gotten to an uncomfortable level. You know what I mean? And other people too, other letters just showing up at my house at random, come down to the congregation, especially around Memorial period or around the Memorial season. So.
Yeah, I got a couple of letters. Memorial season, I feel ya. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, have either of you guys had anybody coming at you, talking about family members who are going back because of the pandemic, because of anxieties about it? Because I literally had my brother, my mom, and my sister low-key, I think that the weight of the pandemic kind of folded them, so my mom's going is at watching the Zoom meetings again, and it's she knows about all of these issues already, but it's is it just the anxiety of having to deal with I mean, they keep telling me oh yeah, they were right, it's there's been how many pandemics before, but yeah.
For me, my mom has totally doubled down since the pandemic was on. She was already in, so it wasn't like she's going back, but she's trying to get me to come back, and she has really doubled down with that effort. I get daily emails with like different links to JW.org articles, and all of them are either about the Russian persecution or something about the last days. So yeah. I feel you.
And that's the clear direction. As I said, this is where they're going with this. This is their entire spin, is that rather than being a pandemic out of many pandemics through history, their entire spin on this has been doomsday from the very beginning. Famously, Stephen Lett saying these are the last days of the last days.
Final part.
Final part of the final part.
They wasted no time. They wasted no time at all in taking that route, didn't they? So it's kind of inevitable, isn't it, that we'll have, we'll know of people in our lives who are scared. And what does it say about your organization if you need to terrify people into returning?
Yeah, crazy. Yeah.
But thank you for sharing that. We have a few more.
I had one more point.
Sure.
One more thing I wanted to add. When I was a kid, like I always was doubting. I was raised a Jehovah's Witness. Like my grandma is still like deep in it. But like when they told me that like Pokemon were like possessed by demons, I was like, it's between you guys or Pokemon. So
God is dying with the Pokemon.
Yeah, and then my grandma told me that like cats don't have souls, and my cat just died, and I was like, these Japanese people, like these Shintoists, they know that animals have souls, right? Or they can at least see something like that. Like there's not that distinguishing difference between us. And you guys want to pet lions in the afterlife, but you're telling me my cat doesn't have a soul. And then at the same time, like all you guys eat fried chicken at family gatherings and stuff, but you're talking about we're going to be vegans. Is just go be a vegan, go fight for environmental justice. All you Jehovah's Witnesses out there watching, like the world is dying. Don't let it die. Like stop it from happening. We can build paradise right now. Also, I have a channel on my video explaining how I left the J-Dubs because of Pokemon, if anybody's interested.
Well, that's an interesting angle. You've probably tipped off Geoffrey Jackson if he ends up watching this. If you want to get more kids involved, bring in Pokemon.
Oh, they did
Pokemon the green light.
Music video, right? They're trying to get their hooks into anime culture.
Definitely.
They're trying. That surprised me too, because it was like no manga. You guys can't watch anime. This is demonic. And I'm like, okay,
I had to hide all my magazines. Any manga, no, none of that. Yep.
Oh yeah, Inuyasha was a particular one. That's like Lucifer on camera. Like that. He's half demon. He's romancing the girls. Like they're literally saying this guy's a demon. Like you guys can't watch this. But yeah.
Yeah, it's very stifling.
So I'm out, but my uncle's the elder. I don't even know if they know, like I'm queer. I don't know if they know that I'm not a Jehovah's Witness. They still come at me like there's a possibility I'm going to come back to the congregation. I don't know if they look at my
Oh, he's gone. That wasn't. I swear that wasn't me.
I don't know what we were supposed to look at.
39. If you're watching this after the fact, I swear we didn't kick you. But
if anyone wants to look at something queer, they can look at my rainbows.
Yes, indeed.
He was about to show us something. So.
But wow, that sounds like there's a story there. But I definitely agree that they've been milking the doomsday potential in this from the beginning, haven't they? And we seem to be getting, again, first-hand testimony to that effect. Mm-hmm. Welcome, Wendy. How are you?
Hi, Lloyd.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here. It's dark. I need another light on, but yours.
Well, it makes you look more ominous and therefore more believable as an apostate. So
pensive. Yous were one of the first videos I watched, and I was hiding under the covers from my husband, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to get caught. And so just if you get attacked by trolls or people are coming at you, I'm sure there are thousands of people like me who are just really, really grateful. One of the things I wanted to mention was that I think one of their greatest tricks is that they nobody really, a lot of people don't remember that Jackson is the very one who said it would be presumptuous of us to think that we are God's only channel. And I may be mistaken on the exact words. So if that's the case, then how do they presume to know what God expects of parents and how to treat their children if they think it's presumptuous on their part? Who's truly being presumptuous here? And that's, I think, we're just not, a lot of people aren't making the connections as far as waking up goes. It's really frustrating because you have to dig, and they're not going to dig to put the story together.
I think Geoffrey Jackson almost certainly is banking on the fact that, 95% of witnesses won't know anything about the Royal Commission and certainly won't have seen his appearance. He certainly speaks in that way, doesn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, if he were more self-aware and more aware of how his testimony played out in people's minds and what the reaction has been, well, frankly, he just wouldn't appear on camera, would he? Unless it was to offer a groveling apology. And to say, I'm really sorry about that. Here's how I'm going to make this right. But no, he speaks with, like all governing body members, with zero self-awareness. And like you say, it is incredibly presumptuous of him to lecture parents and give them parenting tips, not only as someone who doesn't have that experience, but also as someone who is backing up this quote-unquote advice with threats of, by the way, you'll be disfellowshipped and or die at Armageddon if you don't follow this advice.
Yeah, I also have a question for you too, because I'm not sure if you've covered it or you've spoken with someone who may have already have information on this. I was baptized at 10 in 1990, and that was in 2019. They then revised the baptism questions where they changed all the wording. When I was baptized, the wording was I was dedicating my life to Jehovah, and then according to spirit-directed organization was the exact wording. In 2017, they then said they're no longer inspired or infallible. Okay. 2019, they now update the baptism questions. Now you're dedicating yourself to the organization. My question is, does that mean that they then nullified the contract for people who were baptized before 2019? Because I didn't dedicate myself under the new contract. I dedicated myself to God, thinking it was God anyway. Does that mean that, how do they hold it against people if they're the ones who changed the contract? They changed the rules.
Yeah, that's one of the most frustrating things, isn't it? I was baptized age 11 in 1990, and I'm pretty sure in my baptism questions, asked about the meaning of the word generation, my answer would have been, oh, this is referring to the generation that witnessed the events of 1914. They're not going to die off before Armageddon
pass
comes.
away. Yeah.
That was the teaching I was sold. And the basis on which I got baptized in 1990, age 11, they then changed, they then moved the goalpost, which is essentially what you're describing here. We're talking about, a very one-sided arrangement where they're able to change the baptism questions and they're able to change the teachings, but the people who are signing their lives away aren't afforded the same kind of flexibility. I have actually made a video, if anyone's watching, on the updated baptism questions. If you put in Lloyd Evans baptism questions in the YouTube search, it'll be the first suggestion probably. But yeah, it's deep. I get what you're saying. It's deeply frustrating.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you so much. I'm going to let someone else come on right now. Really enjoy your stuff. Thank you so much, both of you.
Thank you, Wendy.
That was a great question.
Really appreciate you joining us. And I don't know how many more we're going to be able to work through. I'm going to try and squeeze in at least a couple. Full disclosure. Do you need to go, Amanda?
No.
Okay.
I'm good.
Sorry, go on. Just to say, talking over each other, just full disclosure, I'm an England fan and I want to watch the England versus Czech Republic game.
Yes, of course.
That's what I'm concerned about. But we do have time for hopefully at least one or two more. Welcome, Patrick. How are you?
I'm good. Man, this is neat. Being on the channel that woke me up originally. So hi, Lloyd. Hi, Amanda. How you doing?
Hello. Hi, good.
Welcome.
Yeah.
So what did you think of the governing body update number 5?
It's just interesting. It's like when you start the journey and when you start exploring, looking outside the organization, you're really nervous. But then I think as time goes on, your journey kind of takes you and it makes you more relaxed. And because you can see all the holes, you can see like the points that you bring out. For example, I kind of get that hint of almost desperation, where they're just grasping at straws. They're just trying to come up with something to kind of keep witnesses kind of in that cycle that you're so used to. And then when you break free from that, it's like the feeling you get is like you can breathe again. And it's just interesting when you can. That's one of the impressions that I got from the video.
Yeah. Oh, there was total desperation in that humongous stretch where they were trying to argue of a biblical foundation for
extended lockdown.
Jehovah coping with lockdown as a concerned parent.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, when you're literally making this stuff up with the aim of indoctrinating people and controlling people, sooner or later it's going to get exhausting, isn't it? I wonder sometimes how there are any dregs of energy or creativity left in their writing department, because it's just so much repetition, isn't it? And so much trying to stretch verses to say things that they're not saying. Sooner or later, that's going to get incredibly exhausting if it's your job to produce this material, you know.
Yeah, totally. And that was an extremely good example. You watch the video and it comes to the point where you just kind of shake your head, like you said, with the shoehorning. You know,
Yeah.
It's like, let's just come up with the most random, obscure thing from the Bible, and we'll make it fit. Oh yeah, Jehovah wanted us to be in a lockdown because for whatever for whatever reason, because some obscure character that you see a sentence in the Bible went through this, and it's like,
Yeah.
okay,
yeah.
But
who knew that Joseph and Mary going to Egypt had something to do with coronavirus? Now we know.
but wait a second. Aren't types and antitypes not?
Yes.
Oh, right. That explains it. The antitypes.
Yeah. Goodness grief.
God.
Yeah. But yeah,
Well,
a lot of good points that everyone's bringing up. Wendy brought up some good points too with the nullifying the baptism. That was an interesting one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really love these viewer invasions. I think I'm doing this now reasonably regularly on Talk Heathen, but it's always nice, quite frankly, to chat with fellow ex-Jehovah's Witnesses and hear their take on particularly incredibly manipulative material that's just been released. So
Yeah.
I do love these viewer invasions. And Patrick, I'm really glad that you say that you've derived benefit from the channel. That's really lovely to hear.
Absolutely. Yeah. And my mom too as well.
Oh, brilliant.
We were both in the process of coming back. I was disfellowshipped, or I am disfellowshipped, and she was.
I can't talk to you then. Sorry.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I know. Yeah, sorry. Forgot to bring that out, right? And I was in a state of just I just had a breakdown, and then I found your channel, and it was really something else, and I shared it with her, and we both had this wonderful relationship because I couldn't talk to her for the longest time. I served as an elder and a regular pioneer and service overseer and all kinds of stuff, and I was really into it, and and so your channel has been just a huge benefit to myself, and then just helping with critical thinking, even just releasing people and getting the most out of this life, because this is when you can have that instead of just, I'm just going to put off whatever I'm going to do, and because we got the new system coming up.
Yep.
And you forego so many great relationships, and you can just be such a better person now instead of just waiting for this thing in the future that nobody knows is going to happen. So thanks again. Huh?
Oh no, I was just gonna say it's like waiting to enjoy life after you die. It's just ridiculous. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, but these are really fun. I like this, and I like these little viewer invasions, and hope to be on it again sometime.
Yes, please do. I should say it's not like once for all time. Riley has made his second viewer invasion appearance, and I'd like to see you again, Patrick. If you watch future live streams, it'd be lovely to see you again. So thank you so much.
Thanks again.
Right, take care. So we have agonizing. There's 10 minutes left, and there are 3 more. Let's try and squeeze them in, shall we, Amanda?
Let's do it.
So this is Watcher Metron, and I can't read the rest of the name. Welcome, Watcher.
Hey.
Oh, you
we
need
can't hear you.
to check your audio equipment.
Yep.
Seems Jehovah's
still
hand
can't
is
hear you.
Jehovah's hand is frantically trying to interfere with this particular exchange.
Jehovah's hand has blocked the audio equipment.
With the audio not working, maybe smoke signals?
Yeah, I mean,
hand
do you know
gestures.
sign language?
We'll take, yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
At least Watcher is not on the ceiling. We have had that problem before,
Yes.
where gravity has
Actually,
been...
could you defy gravity for us? There we go. Oh, he's trying. Yes, we got effort.
So what we'll do is I'll tell you what, Watcher, you stay on, and we'll just take someone else while you try and sort out your setting.
Now?
Oh, you're on now. Brilliant.
Oh, yay.
Yeah.
So, nice to hear you.
Oh, Lord have mercy. Lord have mercy.
So, what did you think of the governing body update?
I just find it funny how they got rid of, like the previous reader said, types and anti-types and, oh, was it up or down, left side, right side? Stop it. It doesn't matter. But then they do that again. They do that themselves.
Hmm. Yeah. Indeed.
Yeah.
Very, very, very tedious stuff.
Yeah.
But hopefully we've alleviated some of the boredom by just pointing and laughing. I think that's all you can do sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's my favorite thing to do, really. It's just kind of a crazy web of lies, and what can you do? You don't want to get anywhere near it. You point and laugh.
Indeed.
Keep your distance.
Hopefully you've been entertained, though, Watcher, and lovely to have you on the Viewer Invasion.
Oh, yeah, it was a pleasure. Yeah.
I'm sorry that there were audio problems, but hopefully we'll have you on again at some point.
Sounds good. Thanks so much.
Okay.
Later.
Take care.
Bye.
And we have time for, if my notes are correct, Swedish Jesus. We've had Mormon Jesus. Now it's Swedish Jesus.
Ooh. Hey,
Hello,
Swedish Jesus.
Hello, Swedish Jesus. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm just fine. Pleasure talking to you, Lloyd.
I
Nice
don't get to
meeting you,
speak
Riley.
to the Messiah every day, so the pleasure is honestly mine. And
Yeah, Scandinavian Messiah right here.
presumably just because of the hairstyle and the beard and not for any other reason, although I don't want to assume anything.
Also, I wanted to follow in Mormon Jesus' footsteps before.
Oh,
we goes
okay.
on.
I see. Got
Yeah.
you. So what did you think of the governing body update?
I think it made me think about just growing up as a kid. There's so much that affects you. And I don't think I've thought about it as much, but me and my sister talked about it recently, that you're so purposely isolated from the rest of the people when you're growing up. Like you can't, like you were joking about Halloween earlier, for example, you can't do any of those fun things. We couldn't go to discos that our school were held when we were like 10 years old. Like, what's going to happen at a 10-year-old disco? We're just going to have fun. So with that in mind, and seeing witness childs having to grow up during the pandemic, wrapping themselves in toilet paper, like, it sounds awful.
Yeah.
But it is what it is.
It sucks, doesn't it? And, as I was saying on the show, we've all had fairly, varying degrees of traumatizing situations in our Jehovah's Witness upbringing. But for me, I think in the JW broadcasting era, with them just hitting these new levels of cultiness, I can't imagine what it would be like now. It must be so
it's really stepped
difficult.
up since I left. I left 2012,
Yeah.
and what I'm hearing now is like 10 levels beyond what I was hearing back then. It sounds way cultier.
It feels like sorry, go on, Amanda.
I was just gonna say, especially when you're already isolated as a Jehovah's Witness child from, like, you're already so limited in your association, and then think about the lockdown on top of that. That's just like, who are you even talking to? Are you just sitting alone in your room? Like, it's sad.
Sounds horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically, the passage of time, as far as I'm concerned, is making them reach new levels of desperation, because basically Armageddon should have come, shouldn't it? This is the problem that we have, is that Armageddon should have already come decades ago, and it's still not come. So the more time passes with these failed predictions hanging over them, the more they get desperate, and they have to find new ways of reinventing their teachings and trying to make themselves relevant to a modern audience that shouldn't be here, because we should be in the paradise. So
Yeah, it sounds ridiculous, but yeah, I just wanted to also thank you, Lloyd. Me and my sister have really been helped by your channel. It's giving us a completely different point of view. I've never listened to any apostate before, but you were definitely the best first apostate to listen to, I guess.
oh, that's wonderful to hear. I'm really, really glad. Look, you know, you make these videos and you just hope someone gets helped. And so if my materials helped you, I'm really, really pleased. And well done for having the bravery to challenge sincerely held beliefs.
Yes. And also, your T-shirts rule. I don't know if you're going to plan on selling them or whatever, but
they're for sale. They're on the there's a Teespring link below. Amanda actually designed one of them. Amanda designed the Accept It T-shirts.
When you see a funny looking shirt with David's Splain, that one's by me.
Oh, okay. You should design a Bottlegate T-shirt if you don't have one already.
There we go. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
In fact, speak of the devil, I have him on my desk at all times.
Exactly that picture on a T-shirt. I'm going to definitely buy it.
Okay, thank you so much for joining us, Swedish Jesus, and please do join us again in future viewer invasions.
Will do. Have a nice day. Enjoy the game.
You too.
Thank you. Take care. And we have one more Messiah. That's what he looks like to me.
Really?
Welcome, Faru.
Yo, what up, Lloyd? How are you?
Not bad. You've even got that kind of Jesus-like sash going
I
on.
went for a full cosplay of Jesus, you know.
I'm impressed. Although, would Jesus have the headset? I'm not sure. I think
No, probably not.
He would be going like this, and we would still be hearing each other, probably. Yeah.
Just like mind control, you know, mind communication. Well, Lloyd, first of all, thank you. And you too, Amanda. The program was pretty cool. I arrived somewhat late, and sorry if I don't speak English correctly. It's not my first language.
Your English is wonderful.
Yes.
Oh, thank you. That makes me feel pretty good. So it's really interesting because when I was watching the update, I was thinking like, you know, Jehovah's Witnesses from 2010 and onwards, they went like on a full rebrand. And I actually just like woke up 2 years ago, more or less, when I started going to university. And I studied visual arts. And I remember that I was thinking a lot like, well, this visual change does not make any sense. It was like so confusing. And right now, after lockdown, almost 2 years later, you can actually see that the message and the visual imagery of Jehovah's Witnesses has changed a lot more. It's like very culty to a point that even I think that if I saw that as a kid, maybe 10 or 6 years ago, it would have been like really traumatic and sometimes like really like, I don't know the exact word, but it would just be like weird. Just like, what am I watching? Is this like real? Because I remember growing up, I was always so scared of the end of the world, like the new system. I was always thinking like, oh, what's going to happen to my family? Government decide to attack Jehovah's Witnesses. And I think that right now, under a new context, they're just like going to full isolation mode with people. It's pretty strange and actually really worrying.
I agree, and it's weird because obviously I never imagined as a Jehovah's Witness that we would be having this conversation and there would be this channel and I would be basically a full-time apostate activist. But I also never imagined the organization looking anything like it does now, and I frequently find myself in situations where my idea of what is or isn't normal to when it comes to Jehovah's Witness propaganda has to be recalibrated, because they're just constantly, just when I think they couldn't be more cringeworthy and culty, they just take it just that little bit, sometimes huge strides forward, but usually just a little step further, where it would have been enough had I been a believing Jehovah's Witness to say, come on, you can't do that. Or it's going completely against the religion that I was raised to respect.
Yeah, the convention of when they show the bunker videos, it was just like so mind-blowing for me and my family. I remember we were on the car going home and we were thinking like, what did we just saw? What the hell happened here? And I think that maybe help a lot of people to wake up. And I'm really worried and kind of scared. Like, we really need to do more things, because information right now for them is being so culty that it's gonna come to a point that, you know, trying to make a message a different, like, try to think for yourself is gonna be so challenging because of this cultiness in the message.
Yeah. Although I think, you know, the more extreme it gets, the more bracing it gets, the more people can be jolted by it, you know, and jolted to start asking questions. And you know, the message I'm getting from people like yourself and others who are reaching out is, you know, this stuff isn't washing. You know, this stuff is in some cases making people think, you know, what on earth is happening to this religion? I've got to investigate this. So,
Yeah.
you know, while it is concerning, at the same time, I think we are seeing, you know, to some degree, some kind of exodus caused by it, caused by
True.
how cringeworthy this stuff is. So,
yeah, thanks a lot, Lloyd. Yeah.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you for calling in, and feel free to call in again on a future viewer invasion.
Sure, I will.
Thank you. Take care,
I'll
Farouk.
see ya.
And that's the end of our viewer invasion, and also the end of the show. Can I just say, Amanda, kick-ass job.
Oh, thanks, man.
You
That
did
was a lot
really,
of fun.
really well. No, I that was fantastic. It's so much more enjoyable doing it with someone, because you have to remember that usually when I do these rebuttals, well, first of all, it's not on a live stream, and secondly, I'm all by my lonesome. But it's great to hear your insights and your reaction, just to remind me that it's not just me infuriated by this stuff.
Oh no, certainly not. Certainly not. It's like I said, pretty much a comedy cringe fest from start to finish. Yeah.
Absolutely. So hopefully we can have you on future live streams.
I would love to join you.
Wonderful. Excellent. So viewers, that's it. I am off to watch England versus the Czech Republic. And hopefully the mighty England will prevail. But that's all we have time for. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe to the Lloyd Evans channel for more such videos. And as always, thank you for watching.